Alright, welcome to week 5 of English 122 here at Ashford University. I'm Dr. T, so let's get started. Week 5, you have two things you need to take care of. One is a discussion where you're going to create a new definition for the term argument. So think about how your understanding and creation of argument evolved over our course. You want to think about your previous definition of the term argument that you posted in week 1, and then you want to cite specific differences from the textbook, from our course materials, or from class discussions that helped you in your evolution of your definition of what an argument is. As always, your initial post has to be at least 200 words. You're required to respond to at least 2 of your classmates, and those responses have to be at least 125 words in length. In addition to the discussion, you'll be turning in the final draft of your research paper. Now make sure that before you submit this, you have reviewed the research paper guidelines to make sure that your paper addresses all the required components and develops a clear position in response to one of the writing prompts that were provided in the list. You have to use at least 5 scholarly sources, no Wikipedia. That's not a scholarly source. Please search the Ashford Library for peer-reviewed sources. Also, make sure that you look at any previous drafts that I've turned back to you and make comments on those drafts. You need to fix any issues that I've addressed in previous drafts. Don't make the same mistakes again. Please fix those. I make notes on your papers, and anything that I make note of, you need to correct. Proofread your final draft for errors in grammar, mechanics, and style. Even better yet, if you can find somebody else who will read your paper for you, have them look at your paper. Also, I find that it really helps if you'll read your paper out loud. That will help you catch a lot of mistakes. Ultimately, this paper is going to be about 10 pages in length. That's going to include a title page, a reference page, and about 8 pages of text. You need to have at least 2,000 words in this paper. Those 2,000 words don't include the title page. They don't include the reference page. Also, make sure to format the paper according to APA style as outlined in the Ashford Writing Center. The Writing Center has a number of sample papers that you can look at to see how to do this. And so they have example title pages. They tell you how to quote things. You can see there are all sorts of examples on this at the Ashford Writing Center, and so please do make use of those. And so please do check their samples on how to do APA formatting, how to avoid plagiarism, grammar issues. So please look at those samples that they have. So this final research paper is going to be graded on the following elements: the structure of the paper, the development of your argument, the style of your writing. Is it a scholarly style, or are you writing like you text? Are you writing like you post on Facebook? Please don't do that. Use proper grammar, make sure that your APA formatting is correct, and make sure that you use scholarly resources. If you use Wikipedia, your grade is going to be lowered. That is not a scholarly source. .com sources also are generally not scholarly sources. You should avoid .com sources. Search the Ashford Library and find peer-reviewed sources. Also, Ashford provides you a lot of ways, a lot of tutoring online. There is live chat. If you work ahead rapidly enough, you can send in your paper to one of our writing tutors, and they'll help you with feedback. But like I said, I've made feedback on all your previous drafts. Check your previous drafts and correct the issues that I've noted on those papers. Ultimately, the final research paper, as we said above, has to be 8 to 10 double-spaced pages. Make sure that every line in the text of this paper is double-spaced. It's got to be formatted according to APA style, which basically means that one of the things is you have to put it in Times New Roman. There need to be 1-inch margins all around the paper, and so on. The first page of the paper is going to be a title page. The title of the paper, your name, the course name and number, my name, and the date that you submitted it. You don't need to skip any lines between any of these elements. Everything should just be double-spaced. Don't skip lines in between these things. Also, the first paragraph of the second page of your paper is going to be an introductory paragraph, and that is going to contain a thesis statement. In my mind, the key to a successful paper is writing a successful thesis statement. There are a couple of different ways I like to think of a thesis statement. One is that a thesis statement is kind of like a to-do list in which I explain the importance of carrying out the various tasks. For example, going to the post office, getting my oil changed, and mowing the lawn will prevent me from enjoying a nap this weekend. Each one of these elements then becomes a section of my paper. In one section of my paper, I'll talk about going to the post office. In the next section, I'll talk about getting my oil changed. In the third section, I'll talk about mowing the lawn. All of that is going to prevent me from enjoying a nap this weekend. You can also think of a thesis statement as being like a shopping list, where you explain the importance of buying the various items. So buying wine, cheese, and decorations will help make the party a success. All right, each one of these paragraphs, or each one of these items, then becomes a section in the paper. In one section, I'll talk about buying wine. In the next section, I'll talk about buying cheese. In the third section, I'll talk about decorations. And all of those things are going to help make the party a success. This is the thesis. This is what I'm arguing. That if I buy wine, if I buy cheese, and if I get decorations, then my argument is that the party is going to be a success. Another way of thinking of a thesis is to compare it to a road map in which you explain the best way to get from one place to the next. So here's an example. Although traveling from San Marcos to Waco via the toll road, Highway 95 and I-35 may not be the most direct route, taking these roads will allow drivers to encounter fewer traffic slowdowns. So here in the thesis statement, I've identified the major areas that my paper is going to cover. First of all, I'm going to talk about taking the toll road from San Marcos towards Waco. Then I'm going to talk about getting off on Highway 95 and traveling for a while. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the final leg of my journey, which involves traveling on I-35. My argument is that even though taking those roads is not the most direct route, this will allow drivers to encounter fewer traffic slowdowns. So after you've got your thesis statement, then each of the items on your list, the toll road, Highway 95, I-35, wine, cheese, decorations, going to the post office, getting my oil changed, and mowing the lawn, each one of those items in the list then becomes a body paragraph or a section in your paper. And each section should be treated in the order that it appears in the thesis statement. So section 1, you talk about the toll road. Section 2 of the paper talks about Highway 95. Section 3 of the paper talks about traveling on I-35. So when you structure your thesis statement, the thesis statement itself is basically a road map to the entire paper. I should be able to read this one sentence and know exactly where we're going in the paper. The paper is going to talk about buying wine. The paper is going to talk about buying cheese. The paper is going to talk about putting up decorations. This is what your thesis statement should look like. If you'll structure your thesis statement correctly, then everything else in the paper should follow naturally. Now, the paper that you turn in has to address the topic of the paper with critical thought. You need to examine all sides of the issue. You may be for school uniforms, but you have to walk a mile in the other side's shoes. You have to think about, okay, what do the people argue who think that school uniforms are a bad idea? If I think school uniforms are a good idea, what does the other side argue? Why do they think that it's a good idea? Or vice versa. You need to examine both sides of the issue. Ultimately, your paper has to end with a concluding paragraph that's going to remind the audience of what your thesis was, and then also provide the audience with further food for thought. You want to sort of challenge your audience in that concluding paragraph. The concluding paragraph is sort of a call to action. What do you want your reader to do? Do you want your reader to support the idea of school uniforms? Do you want your reader to write their congressperson about school uniforms? The concluding paragraph ordinarily involves some call to action. And as we said above, you have to use at least 5 scholarly sources from the Ashford Library, no Wikipedia, avoid .com sources. It's got to be an APA style, and the reference page, this should be your last page, also has to be an APA style. You've got to alphabetize your references page. Make sure it's in alphabetical order according to the author's last name. Last name first, first name last. Also, just copying and pasting URLs onto the reference page, that's not the correct way to format the references. You have to give full information plus the URL. You've got to give the author's last name, comma, the author's first name. You've got to give the year of publication. You've got to give the title of the article. You've got to give the journal or the newspaper or the magazine in which the article appeared. Or if it's a book, then you won't have an article title and you'll just have the title of a book. So there are lots of pieces of information that you need to put into these references. Like I said, it's not enough just to cut and paste the URL. You have to put a lot of other information there as well. Make sure that you review the grading rubric for this paper. This paper is worth 30% of your grade, and a good chunk of that, about a quarter of that 30%, is devoted to structure. This is where your thesis statement comes in. If your thesis statement is not clear and doesn't identify the areas of the paper the areas that you're going to examine in the paper, then that throws off the structure. The thesis statement needs to tell us where you're going. You wouldn't just get in a car with a bunch of people and just drive off without telling them where you're going. Thesis statement works the same way. Thesis statement is you, the driver, getting in the car and saying, here's where we're going on our trip today. We're going to A, B, and C, and that's going to result in us doing X, Y, or Z. All right, then the development of the paper. You've got to create a research paper that's at least 2,000 words in length. So anything less than that is going to result in a significant lowering of your grade. The style of the paper. Are you writing like a researcher? That's a big chunk of this paper. This is a research paper for a major university. This is not something that you're posting on Facebook. This is not a tweet. This is not a giant text. You can't write like you tweet. You can't write like you text. You can't write like you post on Facebook. This is a formal research paper. So no slang, no colloquial expressions, a formal document. This is an English class, so obviously you're going to be graded on grammar. This is a research paper, so you're going to be graded on the quality of your resources. You have to use at least 5 APA formatting, which is not going to affect your grade all that much. It's only 1.5 points out of 30 points. Yeah, in fact, that's only 5% of the grade for this paper based on APA formatting. Make sure that you understand what it is that you're doing here. This is a formal research paper. It's going to ultimately be about 10 pages in length, a minimum of 2,000 words, and that does not include, those 2,000 words don't include the title page and the references page. The title page and the references page don't count towards that total. So you need to keep that in mind. Well, good luck on this final research paper. Make sure that you take advantage of the Ashford Library. The Ashford Library and the Ashford Writing Center have a ton of things that can help you in creating this paper. Follow the directions. Many of you have not followed the directions on previous assignments. If you'll just follow the directions, then your grade will turn out pretty decent, I have a feeling. But if you don't follow the directions, then your grade's not going to be a very happy one. Please follow the directions. Employers want employees that can follow directions. This is a good opportunity for you to practice that very thing. Best wishes, and thanks for a great semester.